After a wild weekend of partying and wearing sexy outfits, I arrived home to divorce paper. I don't know why men always have to act as though they own their wives, because it hurt me so much that my husband, who I thought I had an understanding with, suddenly shut me out because I went out and had a fun weekend. He didn't even care to be understanding. Anyways, it's his loss. I'm just angry because of the decision he made after that night, and that is why I'm here venting. This is about how I lost the man dear to my heart because he couldn't overlook my little nightlife. Bruce, my husband, traveled a lot for work. He never wanted it to be an issue, so even while we were dating, he would tell me that he loved me and that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me, but if I needed to be sure that I could handle his work life. He didn't want me regretting my decision later, and I always assured him that I was fine with how his job ate up a lot of his time. I frequently told him that I was a big girl who could take care of herself, and I didn't need him to be around every moment of every day. I think that was another thing that made him love me even more. I think the fact that I was understanding about his job made me his ideal woman. We also agreed to have a child in the first 3 or 4 years of our marriage. That was one thing we had a mutual understanding about. He wanted to be more present when we finally had a child, and I didn't want to start pumping out children immediately after we got married. The first 2 years of our marriage were lovely. Bruce tried his best to be home on the weekends, although there were some weekends that he wouldn't be able to come home. Things started going downhill when I celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary alone. He wasn't able to come back home, and I knew he tried to be there, but he just couldn't make it. He was hoping he'd be able to finish up everything he was doing and take a quick flight back, and he kept calling me and to tell me how things were going, but at the end of the day, he just couldn't make it. He felt horrible and honestly apologized about it over the phone, and I understood him, but I was angry. I don't know if you've ever felt that kind of anger before, the type that wants to see someone suffer or at least pay for the wrong they did you. It didn't matter the amount of apologies and promises my husband offered me that day. All I knew was that I was angry and I needed someone to pay for that anger. I went to work the next day. I owned a small boutique and my workers felt my fury. It was as though nothing they did was enough. I kept complaining, shouting, and even insulting some of them. I knew I was wrong, but I couldn't help it. I was just burning with rage. I didn't even stay at work till the end of the day. I went to the spa for a while, after which I went home. Once I got there, the front door was open. I was cautious and scared, but when I got in, I saw my husband in the living room. He wanted to surprise me since he couldn't make it for our anniversary. He had cooked and was just waiting for me to return. We had dinner and talked, and we had a wonderful night. Then he said something to me. He said that he wants me to enjoy my life, that he felt bad whenever he called and I was sounding or feeling sad. He said I should find a hobby or something and do things that make me happy. He wanted me to be happy whether he was around or not. He didn't want my happiness to be reliant on him being around or not. He said that it would be nice if I was always happy and just happier when he was around. He ended the conversation because it looked like it was heading towards a fight. I asked him if this was his way of saying that he was going to be more absent going forward. He tried to tell me that it's not what he meant, and that he was just looking out for me because he loved me. But I didn't want to hear that. He just told me to forget about it, and that was the last time he brought it up. But after he left in the morning, I thought about it. I asked myself what I did for fun. Then I asked myself what made me happy other than my husband. I asked myself if I had any hobbies, and none of the answers I came up with were good ones. And without even noticing, I told myself that my husband was right. So I decided to try different things to see what made me happy, or at least to see what I enjoyed doing. I tried yoga, but that was just depressing. I tried learning the piano, dancing, painting, but nothing stuck. I even tried gambling, and I couldn't see what the thrill was. It was like I was immune to having a good time unless I was hanging out with my husband. I had almost given up, and I honestly wish I gave up. But then I met her, Claudia. I was waiting to be attended to at a restaurant when the waiter suddenly walked to this young lady who just came in. The waiter attended to her before attending to me, and I came in before her. I was curious about her. She kept making videos with her phone, and even after they served her food, she took pictures of the food and made videos of herself eating it. I knew she had to be an influencer. I had never taken an interest in influencers or social media. I mean, I use social media, especially for my business, but it wasn't a big part of my life. I was so focused on her that I didn't eat my own food. After she was done eating, she thanked the waiter, sent her compliments to the chef, and left. She didn't pay. I know because I didn't take my eyes off her from the moment the waiter went to take her order. When I finally finished eating and the waiter came to give me the bill, I asked him who the lady that just left was, and he told me her name, Claudia. She was indeed an influencer. He told me that he needed to get back to work, but advised me to check the restaurant's social media page for more clarity. After I paid, I took my things and searched for the restaurant on the internet. I checked their Instagram page, and they had posted a video of her with the caption, "Guess who stopped by today?" She was tagged on the post. I opened her own account, and she had a few thousand followers and was from the area, so local restaurants and stores used her to promote their businesses. I was shocked that I had never ran into her or even seen her before that day. Or maybe I just never noticed. But I went through her page and I saw shops and places that I go to. She even used the same spa I do. It made me pick an interest in her. Her life looked so fun and exciting. Of course, I wanted to approach her, but how was I going to do that without looking like an absolute freak? I tried to put her out of my mind, but that seemed impossible the harder I tried. I went to work the next morning, and while I was in my office, I just stalked her on her account. I was doom scrolling through each and every one of her accounts. I saw a video of her having a cold can of beer by the beach. It was such a beautiful picture, and while I was admiring it, I didn't realize when I liked the picture. It was only seconds after I had liked the picture that I suddenly realized I had done so. I quickly unliked the picture, but it didn't matter. She must have received a notification that I had liked the picture, so I liked it again. But then I realized that it was my boutique's official account I was using to do the stalking. I had liked her picture with the boutique's account. I screamed at the top of my lungs and buried my face in my palms. I kept asking myself what was wrong with me and what I had done. One of my staff came into the office and asked if everything was all right. I gave a fake smile and nodded. I convinced myself that Claudia gets thousands of likes each day, so she wouldn't notice one like out of thousands. With that, I put my mind to rest. A few hours later, I heard some excited ruckus outside. I didn't bother to get up or even check what was going on. I simply waited for it to simmer down. But it didn't seem to be ending. I got up to go check what was going on, and just as I approached the door opened and one of my staff barged in. She didn't even knock, and I was surprised by this odd and daring behavior. I asked her what was going on and what called her out on not knocking. She apologized quickly and told me that someone wanted to see me. I looked at her. She was sweating from excitement. I asked her who it was that wanted to see me, and she said Claudia. She called Claudia's name as though she had known her all her life. Clearly she was a fan. I was stunned, but I had to maintain composure. I took my seat behind my desk and asked her to send Claudia in. My heart was pounding. A lot of thoughts were running through my head, but I decided to silence them and see what was about to happen. There was a subtle knock on my office door, and I knew it was Claudia. The door opened, and she walked in, looking very fashionable. She was wearing sunglasses with a price tag on it. It was clear she had picked it up from my boutique. I greeted her, and she greeted me respectfully as well. We shook hands, and I played it cool. I didn't think it would be cool to act as though I didn't know her, so I just asked her why she wanted to see me. She took off the glasses and told me that she just bought the glasses from my store. I didn't know what to say to that. She then told me that it was going to be the last thing she will buy at full price from my store. I didn't understand where this conversation was going, but I chuckled at first and shook my head. Then I asked her to explain what she meant. She said that it was clear I wanted her to be an ambassador for my boutique, which was why I liked her picture. I can't recall the one that hit me first, shock or shame. I couldn't seem to find the words. So in my absence of things to say, she just continued talking. She gave me this whole pitch about how she can help my business thrive while also enjoying some privileges and preferential treatments. There was something about the way she talked that had me completely sold. But I didn't want to look naive, so I proposed to her that we give it a test to run for 3 to 6 months. If things looked good, we would extend and maybe even renegotiate terms if I was very impressed. The meeting lasted a total of 32 minutes. I know because I was counting. My palms and feet were sweating as a result of my anxiety, but I made sure to hide it well. When we were done, we exchanged a handshake, and she took a selfie of us. It happened so quickly that I wasn't even sure that it happened. Just as she was about to leave, she told me that I was cool. Then she walked away. I didn't know which was more shocking to me, the fact that this 24-year-old girl just walked into my office with the confidence of an entire continent and made a deal with me, or the fact that she was talking to me like we were on the same level. I was 5 years older than her, yet she made me nervous. I sat back on my chair and placed my palm on my chest. My heart was beating so fast that you'd think it was going to jump out of my chest like a frog out of water, but I maintained my cool and rested on my chair. I was staring into nothing for almost 5 minutes, and after that, all that came out of my mouth was that "let us see how it goes." I packed up my bags and headed out of the office. All my staff were looking at me as I walked out. They all had this expectant look on their faces, like they were waiting for me to give some kind of explanation or even a snippet of what happened with Claudia. I paused just as I got to the door. Then I looked back and told them that Claudia was now an ambassador of the store. They threw so many questions at me at once, but I didn't bother to give any of them an answer. I just walked out of the boutique and went home. Just as I was unlocking my front door, I got 2 or 3 notifications on my phone. I first got into the house, kept my bag on the couch, then I checked my phone. Claudia had followed my personal account and the boutique's account. She had posted the selfie she took of us in my office and some other photos she took in the store with some of the staff. She basically announced to the whole world that she was now in partnership with my boutique. I went to sleep that night, and by the time I woke up in the morning, the boutique's account had gained about 2,000 new followers. I couldn't believe it. I jumped out of bed and screamed at the top of my lungs. Nigga! My husband came home that day, and I couldn't stop telling him about everything. He didn't have an Instagram or TikTok account, so I created accounts for him and made him follow the boutique's account. I was so excited, and I told him to keep an eye on how the account was going. He could see how excited I was, so he was happy for me. By 2 p.m, a few of my staff called me and asked if they could go home for the day. I asked if they were sick or if they had an emergency. They said that the boutique had sold out what it had, so they weren't doing anything there. I was too stunned to speak. They asked me again if they could go home, and I agreed without even thinking about it. I told my husband the good news, and he couldn't believe it either. I wanted to reach out to Claudia, but I realized I didn't have her phone number, so I sent her a message on Instagram. I honestly thought she would take quite some time to reply, but that wasn't the case. She gave me an answer almost instantly. I told her what had happened and thanked her, and she told me that I sell good stuff. So it's easy to convince people that something is good when it is actually good. My husband left for work the next day, and I felt so excited to begin the new week. I had placed orders for more outfits, and they were coming in that Monday. I went to the mall to pick out some things for the house when I ran into Claudia. She was with a few friends, and she introduced me to them. She then asked me if I was busy on Friday night. I told her I wasn't, so she told me that she wanted to take me somewhere. I was quite curious about it. I asked her where she wanted to take me, but she didn't give me an answer. She just gave me a mischievous smile and walked away with her friends. I spent the entire week anticipating Friday, and my business was moving so quickly that it was hard for me to keep up. I had no clue how much influence and outreach these online influencers and e-celebrities had. It was like my boutique was now a tourist site that everyone wanted to visit and come buy things from. I loved the attention, and I loved how quickly things were selling out. But it was really hard to keep up with the demand. Regardless, I saw it as a challenge, and I rose up to it. Friday finally came, and I got a message from Claudia while I was at work. She told me to meet her at a club at night. Seeing the club she wanted me to meet her made me curious. I had gone clubbing a few times, nothing serious, but I had never been able to get access to that particular club. The queue was always endless, and I didn't see why I needed to go stand in a queue that never ended just to go party. I didn't feel like going home first, so I stayed at work even after everyone had gone home. Then I went to meet Claudia at the time she suggested. When I got to the club, there was a long line as usual. I waited in my car until I saw Claudia with about 2 of her friends. I got out of the car and went to meet them. You should have seen the way they looked at me. One of them couldn't even hold back her laughter. They asked me what I was wearing and told them that I was just coming from work, so I was still in my work clothes. That was just an excuse. Even if I had gone home, the clothes I would have worn would have still been the same kind. Very classy and perhaps even official. Claudia shook her head and told me that I was coming to a club, so I needed to show some skin. But there was nothing they could do about it, so they'd let me be since it was my first time. I asked Claudia if the club was worth us waiting for hours online. She looked at me with a prideful smile and told me that one of the advantages of hanging out with her was that I would never have to wait in line for anything. I thought she was just being egoistic, but she walked past the line and her friends followed, so I followed as well. When we got to the entrance, the guards there knew her by her name and allowed us to enter. Claudia looked at me like she was absorbing all the shock on my face. The club was very lively. It was loud, and I immediately could understand why people stood in line for so long to get into the club. Things took a rather jaw-dropping turn when we took a table and Claudia began dancing and partying. Her friends joined in, and I honestly felt like the odd one out. But they pulled me into the fold and made me start dancing as well. He partied all night, and when I went back home, my heart was still beating with excitement. Throughout the day, all I wanted was for us to go partying again. I enjoyed that intense level of clubbing like nothing I had ever experienced. The game was on another level, and I wanted more. I didn't realize it, but I had found something I loved doing. I had found my hobby. My husband came home that Saturday, but I was too tired to even pay attention to him. I slept for most parts of the day, and when I woke up in the evening, my husband was lying right beside me, watching me sleep. He told me that I looked so peaceful and happy as I was sleeping. He asked what was making me so happy in my sleep, and I just told him that I had a good day with Claudia. I didn't tell him that I had gone clubbing. He didn't even mind asking for the details. He was just happy I was having a good time, even in his absence. That same week, on a Wednesday, Claudia sent me a message, asking me if I was free to go clubbing that night. I was honestly shocked. Clubbing on a weekday just didn't sound normal to me. She then called me on Instagram, and she was crying. I was worried about her, so I told her that I'd clear my schedule. I didn't have anything to do that evening. I just didn't want to sound lonely and idle on a Wednesday night. She told me that she would come meet me at my house so we'd pick what I'd wear because she didn't trust me to follow the right dress code. I laughed and told her that I would send her my address. I sent her the address, and after work, I went home. She was already waiting in front of my house. She said she liked being punctual, even if it's for trivial matters. I welcomed her into my home, and she went through my wardrobe. She looked impressed with my clothes, but she didn't think any of them were for clubbing. She said she needed something that would show off my shape and show some skin. She then found some of my lingerie in my drawer, and she smiled like she had discovered the gold mine. She told me I was going to wear the lingerie to the club, and I was honestly repulsed. I asked her how she could expect me to put that on and even leave my room, let alone wear it to a club. She laughed and told me that I would wear a jacket or coat on it and only take it off in the club if I wanted to. I didn't like the idea, but Claudia was very convincing. Plus, the outfit she was wearing was so sultry that it made my lingerie look like full clothing. She pleaded with me till I gave in and wore the black lingerie. I felt so sexy and ready to show off my beautiful curves for people in the club to see. After I had to put it on, I wore a black coat on top of the lingerie, and we left the house. I drove us there, and she told me that she had a fight with her friends. Both of her friends thought she was sleeping with their boyfriends and confronted Claudia about it. Claudia denied it, but they still didn't believe her and got into a fight. I then asked Claudia why her friends would think she slept with their boyfriends. She chuckled and told me because she actually did, and the boys were too careless with the secret. She said didn't think it would harm their friendship. She made it sound funny and sad at the same time. We went to the club again, and we partied like our lives depended on it. I kept the coat on, but the more I drank and danced, I took the coat off before I even realized. As we were partying, Claudia made videos with her phone. I shook my bottoms, and we both danced in the most unruly of ways. We were enjoying each other's company, and everything felt like magic. At the end of the night, we had spent so much money and made so many videos that I could count. Neither of us could drive because we weren't just drunk, we were completely wasted. So we called for a driver to come take us home. Claudia spent the night at my place that night, and the next morning, she was so happy, like she had let go of every ounce of guilt she felt for sleeping with her friends' boyfriends. I don't know what it was about Claudia, but she made me feel young again. I know I wasn't much older than her, but I was married and I had a business. Everything about my life just seemed so grown up and stuck up. But with her, I felt like a young woman again. She made everything so exciting and enjoyable. I made us breakfast and prepared to go to work. She asked if she could come with me to work, and I agreed. I didn't want to say no. After all, she was an ambassador for my boutique. She followed me to work that day, and yeah, she wore my clothes. When we walked into the store, the staff greeted me, and I continued into my office. She stayed in the boutique, and a few minutes later, I got a notification that she was doing a live video, so I joined the live video. She was showing around the store and the clothes there, and she showed the staff while talking about how cool everything was. It made me ask myself why she was so interested in my store and in me. I know I'm not the most likable person in the world, and she wasn't getting as much out of our deal to quantify the amount of work she was putting into spreading the word about my store. On the live video, she then said that it was time to see the boss, and I knew she was coming to my office, so I left the live. She came into the office and made me say a few words, and she even said I was her friend. It was all very sweet and yet very strange. But I didn't want to think too much about it because soon enough a crowd was in the boutique. People knew she was there and they wanted to come see her. A lot of them bought things from the store, so I didn't mind. She came to the office after some time and told me that she was leaving. She wanted to go home. I gave her a hug and she left. That night felt so lonely and boring to me. It was like Claudia had shown me this thrilling and enjoyable life, and now that I wasn't enjoying it, I felt empty. I wanted to go to the club, but I knew I wouldn't be able to enter alone, and I'd have to stand in line, so that thought alone discouraged me. I stayed home that night, and the next day, I didn't hear from Claudia either. I thought about sending her a message, but I didn't want to look desperate or obsessed with her, so I let her be. My husband didn't come home that weekend as well, so I was alone. I didn't see Claudia until Sunday night when she showed up in front of my door, dressed in a very revealing outfit, and asked me to come clubbing with her. I first asked her if she was out of her mind. It was a Sunday night, we'd party all night, and the next day was Monday. What reasonable person would want to wake up with a raging hangover on a Monday morning when you'd have to go to work? She laughed and told me that I sound so logical. She told me that she didn't care about logic. She told me that it was going to be fun. I knew it was going to be fun. Only crazy people like her would be at a club on Sunday night. And besides, there was no dull moment with her. So I got dressed. I had picked out some sexy outfits from the store, just in case I wanted to go clubbing again. They were more revealing than anything I had worn in my entire life. That night was my wildest night yet. I twerked and gave lap dances to some guys. I even kissed them and let them fondle and grope me. Claudia went even farther. I think she slept with a guy in a corner of the club. We were so drunk and having the time of our lives that we didn't have the time to think about anything, especially not me. We stayed at the club till morning because we couldn't even use our phones properly to order a driver. We were woken by the club cleaners who were trying to do their job that morning. When I woke up, I laughed. I had never slept in a club, and that was the first time that was happening to me. It felt like I was walking on the moon. Claudia asked me what was so funny, and I told her. She laughed as well, and told me that she couldn't count the amount of times she had slept in a club. While we were laughing, I checked for my phone, but it was missing. I facepalmed and sighed in annoyance. My phone had been stolen. Claudia checked for hers as well, and it had been stolen also. She sprang up and told me she needed to get home. She needed to use her laptop to change the password to all her social media accounts and report the stolen phone before it could be used to hack her account. She was so terrified, so we hurried out to the car. I drove her to her house and asked if she needed my help with anything. She told me that she could handle everything on her own, so I went home. I figured that I better do the same password changing thing as well to limit the risk of being hacked, but I was really worried about my social media accounts. Rather, I was worried about my bank accounts. But when I got to the door, it was unlocked. I squeezed the door handle and walked in. My husband was sitting on the couch with his phone and a folder on the table. I covered myself in the coat I wore on top of my sexy clubbing outfit and greeted him with a big and fake smile. I told him I didn't know he'd be coming home that Monday morning. He wasn't smiling or reciprocating any of my excitement. He told me to sit. His tone was cold, harsh, commanding, and scary. I did as he asked and sat in front of him. He asked me where I had been, and I chuckled and said that I went to spend the night at the house of a friend. He asked which friend, and I told him Claudia. He asked me when Claudia and I became friends. I felt like I was being interrogated, so I asked him what all these questions were about. He smiled and picked up his phone from the table. He opened Instagram and opened Claudia's Instagram story. He turned the phone screen for me to watch the video that was playing. It was a video of me giving a guy a lap dance while also kissing another guy. That first video finished and the next one came up. Is that when I was twerking while some guys were throwing cash on me? The next video came on, and it was the video of me in the arms of another man. His hands were all over me, grabbing every part of my flesh he could hold. I was speechless. There was nothing I wanted to say. The evidence was right there, so I couldn't deny it. He knew the whole truth. Claudia's Instagram story was filled with a lot of videos from the previous night. And my husband didn't stop the videos. He wanted me to watch all of them. It got to the video where one guy spanked me and I smiled and bit my finger. That was when I stopped the video by myself. He asked me if I had seen enough because there was more, a lot more. He then said he would ask me one more time. Then he asked me where I was coming from. I answered in a low voice, almost a whisper. I told him that I went clubbing with Claudia. He shook his head and said that I was a disappointment to him. He told me that I didn't just express myself, but I did it publicly for thousands of people to see. I chuckled and asked him to get off his high horse. I told him that he was the one who asked me to have some fun and find something I love doing. I told him that I had found it, pointing at his phone, which was still on Claudia's Instagram page. I told him that he should stop acting so stuck up and loosen up, because he was taking things too seriously. His face changed into a tight frown, and he asked me what I was talking about. I told him that he was taking things too seriously. I told him that I just had a little harmless fun, and he was giving me so much headache for that. He scoffed and told me I was a lost cause. He pushed the folder on the table closer to me and told me to sign it. I asked him what it was, but he didn't answer me. I opened the folder and saw it was divorce papers. He took a pen out of his pocket and kept it on the table as well. "Sign it," he said, "or I will send these videos to your parents to see the kind of child they raised." I asked him if he was doing this simply because I went clubbing. I even told him that it wasn't like I had slept with any of the guys, and that he was just insecure and acting all pathetic. He shook his head in stern disappointment, and I saw that there was no hope for me. So I fell to my knees, tears pouring out of my eyes. I begged him not to do this, but he didn't care about anything I said. He said I should have thought about that before I decided to be a whore. He gave me 10 seconds to sign it, or he'd send the link of the videos to my parents. I was so frightened and frustrated, so I slowly picked up the pen and signed the divorce papers. He took the papers and walked away, and I shouted at the top of my voice for him to hear that I was too good for him, and he would come begging. But that didn't even stop him, but I know he will regret his decision and come asking for forgiveness soon, because I did nothing to deserve that, and there's nothing wrong with having a little fun. But it still hurts that he would even dare demand for divorce. Update. Hello, everyone. 2 months have passed since I signed the divorce papers. My husband still hasn't changed his mind or come after me like I expected. I hate him for destroying my life and leaving me all behind. Besides, I was too good for him. Maybe he realized that and tried to hide his shame, and that's why he couldn't even show his face in front of me again. Also, my husband didn't send the video to my parents, but someone else did. Of course, they had a lot of followers, and someone recognized me and sent the videos to my parents. They called me and gave me an earful. They felt scolding me over the phone was not enough, so they decided to come over and give me a piece of their mind. But the ironic thing was that they did not tell me that they were coming. So they did not know that I had moved out of Bruce's house. They didn't even know that we were now divorced. And things played out like it was a plot written by the devil himself, because when they went to the house, Bruce was home. Bruce was almost never home. He only came home on the weekends, and that wasn't even assured. But the day my parents stopped by his house, he was home. He told them everything, and my mom had a heart attack when she heard it all. I went to see them in the hospital, but my father wouldn't even look at me or even let me anywhere close to my mother. The funny thing is that with everything that happened, Claudia still wanted me to hang out with her. When I told her what hanging out with her had caused me, she told me to forget about my husband. She said men were just there for our pleasure. That was when it dawned on me that Claudia was the devil sent from hell to destroy my life. Because when I refused to hang out with her anymore, she took to her social media account and said horrible things about me and my store that weren't true. And just like that, my business closed down. My life is an absolute mess. And I don't know where to start rebuilding from. If my life came crashing down because of one gigantic thing I did, then maybe I wouldn't have felt this sad. But I barely did anything. Sure, I dressed in some revealing outfits and partied like crazy, but who doesn't? This is a modern age. I know there are people who have done things way worse than me and are still happy in their marriages. Anyways, that's life, I guess.